Hi there, how are you? I'm back again. This is Antonia Tamburello, and today's PowerPoint presentation is transferring cases from the PD unit to the FS unit. Okay. Okay, so for our introduction, transferring cases from the PD CPS unit to FSU, which stands for Family Services Unit, requires joint home visits to the family by both teams. So PD stands for the investigative unit. Okay, so both teams, both case workers have to schedule a joint visit to the family because they're going to have to transfer it and they need to have discussions about that transfer. Okay. Okay, so here we are on slide 3. Okay, this is joint home visit part 1. So we have here talk about strengths. You're going to talk about current issues, behaviors, cause and effect, safety, and risk. So basically, the FSU team, that caseworker, doesn't know anything about this case they're going to receive. So it's really very important that the PD worker is going to give proper information so that they can work with this family. So when they're in the home, you want to start with your introductions. You want to point out some strengths about the family and all the individuals in this family. You want to talk about the current issue about, like how did they get this case? What's going on in this home? What are all the different behaviors that are going on between the children, or even if it was the parent, maybe it's the parents and the children. There's so many different scenarios, but whatever those behaviors are that are going on in this home needs to have a discussion between the family members and the PD unit CPS worker so that the FSU CPS worker has an understanding of what's going on here. Okay, like cause and effects, safety, and risk. These 3 categories kind of blend around each other, because there's something that's going on. There's some triggers that are going on in this family with their behaviors that can be causing some dangers going on in the family, the safety of the children. There could be some kind of future risk. These are the things that are going to be spoken about. Okay. Okay, so now we have here slide number 4, part 2. I have family history discussions, FSU genogram. We're going to discuss solution plans, introductory letter, outcomes, and action plans. Okay, so in this part, this is all happening in this one visit. Of course, you can't fit it all on one, slide, so that's why you see in part 1, 2, 3 as we go on. But all this happens in that scheduled visit, all of this. Okay, so now the family history is going to be discussed between the 2 workers and the family. And the FSU genogram is very important because now it's this And in this gram, everyone does it different. Some people, they use the square boxes or circles, and you start with the family, and then you have all these branches coming out around the main family, and there'll be special parts that you're writing in, the grandmother, the grandfather, or the aunt, the uncle, the baby, or, the work, going to work, school. These are all the parts that are going to go into this map. Okay, it's like a map of the family. Okay, so, and the other thing here is um, there has to be some kind of a solution plan that um, is already in place, because for it to be transferred from PD to FSU, there's something going on. They definitely had to do an intervention. So there is something in place. There's some service of some sort in place already at this point. Now, the introductory letter is very important, because you're going to read this, okay, to the mother and the father, or just the parent, whoever the parent is going to be listening to this letter, that's going to explain, the new worker, um, what they're going to be doing to help. They're going to be following through with the solution plans or any future plans, or they're going to be discussing court dates and schedules and visitations. All this is, whatever is being discussed is written in this letter, and they have to acknowledge it. That parent is going to acknowledge that they are in receipt of this letter, and you're going to make that, you're going to have two, because you need to have a copy. You're going to have the parent sign it. They can, they get a copy and you get a copy for your file. In fact, I would make it in triplicate, so you have one for the file, one for the family, and possibly maybe the PD unit would like to have a copy that they can, show in their file, scan it and save it, as for they, participated and they were at this scheduled meeting, because they're all going to sign that they were at this meeting together when they transfer the case. Okay, that's what I always like to do. That was something that I did. You might like that idea as well. And the outcomes, that's a discussion. You'll talk about, like so far up into the point where, whatever service plan they're on, what have been the outcomes of this so far, what's going on. Are there any possible new action plans coming up? At this point, you also want to have, like, when you're giving them the introductory letter, it would be a good idea to have them sign the HIPAAs there, because the HIPAAs, that the medical documents, the HIPAAs that they need to sign, so that now the FSU team can retrieve information from the medical teams of whatever doctors they see. So you want to, make sure all this signing happens at this point. Okay. All right, so we'll go on to the next. Okay, so here we are, number 5, part 3. We have here discuss the everyday routines and activities, discuss visit schedules, service referrals, and we have discussed court orders. Okay, so why discussing the everyday routines and activities is so important, because you want to get a bird's eye view of how this family operates. It's really very important to hear their schedule, so that you can start to think in your mind, okay, so what's going to work where I know that I can find them home and it works for my schedule. And not only that, but you want to know what they do for recreation, what do they do to, keep engaged as a family, Well, all that's very important. School activities, who's driving them back and forth. You want to know everything that goes on with that, so that you'll have more people to talk to. You'll know who they are to find out how things are going in that area by hearing that information. And then you want to discuss a visit schedule, what's going to be good for them, so that you could already pull out your calendar and fill in a time for your next visit. Now we have service referrals. There may be something coming up where you might have to make another kind of referral for something else that's going on here. We don't know. You want to find out because maybe everything up until this point that was taken care of by the PD unit is in place, but it could be that like the time schedule for them is they definitely had to do this transfer because they can't hold it past 60 days. If they're going to do a transfer, you just don't want to do that. You want this to go into the next unit. And let's say something else came up, but they couldn't do it yet because the transfer had to take place. It might be something that the FSU unit is going to take and carry forward in some extra service referrals or whatever. And then you want to discuss the court orders, like what exactly happened, in that court order, the whole scenario about what's going on. You want to discuss it. So now that family knows that you know exactly how this case started and what happened, and you're going to discuss it. And you'll be talking about the next court dates, and then you could put that also in your book for future scheduling. Okay, so we got that, right? All right, so we'll take a look at our next slide here. We have part 4. I have language, culture, worker safety, and any scheduling issues. Okay, so this is really all of it is all very important to talk about. Language could be maybe there's some kind of a language barrier, and our ACS cell phones, we have a phone number that we can call, so for the language line, and whatever language the family speaks, you can just call the language line and they can help you with the translations. Culture is very important to talk about because in this category you get to find out what is important that they have in their life about culture, because you want to be very respective about this. Maybe they have special times during the day where they can't have visits, and sometimes they have a hard time talking about it because it's something they do, like in their life, because it's their culture. For example, there may be, I remember there was a family that actually prayed together like somewhere around 5 p.m. So I couldn't come to visit between 5 and 6 p.m. And that was every single day between 5 and 6 p.m. And so these are things you want to make sure that you don't become offensive, you don't offend anyone. You want to be very respectful of their culture, and it's very important to learn from them. They can teach you about whatever is important in their culture that you need to be aware of. So that's a very important discussion. Okay, and with worker safety, that's something that may be already written in the case from the PD unit. And if it is such, that is a conversation you're going to have with that family, because you don't want them to feel that you're intimidating them, because maybe you're going to come with another caseworker. Maybe it's going to be a pair. You're going to work in a pair. Sometimes when we have a worker safety issue, there are visits that are on schedule where you actually have a police officer meet you there. And they need to hear that. You're going to have to let them know, please don't be offended, but, I have an understanding that I'm hearing from the case that there was such dangers, and, if I may just have to do that in our scheduling, where I may have to have a police officer um, meet us for a visit. If that is a particular criteria that comes up in this category, it might happen. You never know. Okay, so we got that, right? All right. Let's go to the 7th slide. This is part 5, and we have transferring cases where children reside, discuss disagreements, deputy director, 2 business days. Okay, so this is this is another portion. This is not something that would actually be like right now, like you're in a joint home visit. I put this in here as the last slide because there are times where you're going to get that transfer case, but the child lives somewhere else. So you're saying to your, your supervisor or your manager, like, like, I'm going to be traveling to such and such borough when the child lives in, like, I don't understand. So that's a discussion that you would have with your deputy director, because they're the ones that have to call the deputy director of that borough, and they kind of get like a 2 business days to actually clock that and get that done. So so that's why I threw that in there. This is not like something that you're going to go be discussing in somebody's home. This is a part that you would have a discussion with your supervisor, manager, and your deputy director. Okay, so that's everything up until this point, in reference to transferring the cases. Let me see. Let me take a look here. My notes, if there's anything else. No, I think that will be it for this. Yeah. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. I figured that this would be, I'm remembering all the parts of things I would like to know. I always put myself in the person's shoes and saying, okay, wouldn't it be great to know all these things? Not like it comes to crunch time, you just wind up into this new unit because you wanted to work in family services and you don't really have enough time to learn all about it. It can be intimidating and you get nervous, So I said, you know what? I think it would be a nice idea for me to put these videos together and give you all the different parts so that you can be comfortable with it. You know what's coming. It'll make you feel good to know that you have some point where you have an idea what's going on. All right, so I thank you for stopping by and taking a look at the video. I'll have more coming, keep a lookout. And you have a great evening. And I hope that this will be helpful in the future for any new people that would like to work in the FSU unit. Okay? All right. Bye-bye. And you have a good evening now.